welcome back to Upload Deco. I am in the process of restocking my coasters for markets and my live sale. So you can see all these fern coasters that I'm making. These are my best-selling coasters, and today I will show you exactly how I make these coasters. Let's get started! These are the molds that we will be using to make the coasters. I made these molds myself, and they are 4 inches in diameter and only a 1/4 inch deep. A lot of the mass-produced molds I found were much thicker, resulting in extra resin being used. That's extra cost for me, extra cost for the customers, extra materials that doesn't affect the function or aesthetic of the coasters, so that's why I ended up making the molds myself. It's also so much better quality, so the extra work is worth it for me. Anyways, for the resin, we are using Total high performance resin, the slow hardener version. That's the resin that I use for all my coasters, trays, and anything that's not floral blocks or top coating. I'll show you what I use for top coating later in this video. For the green side of the coasters, I am using May Springs Green Pyromorphite. It's my favorite green, I think. I've also used their olive gold for these half and half color block coasters, which is really pretty as well, but because I work with real flowers and they're all a little different in shade, the ferns that I have right now match this color more, I think. To create the color block effect, I pour both the color and the clear at the same time. I try to control both sides evenly so it's half color and half clear, as best as I can of course. Give the middle a little swirl to blend the colors and then add the fern to the clear side. I will be adding a background color to these coasters because I like the fern on a white background. I think that makes the fern pop a little more, as well as the green color. It shows that half and half color block effect really beautifully. So this is my first layer, and I let that set for a couple hours and I come back to add my white. I have a mix of opaque pigment and mica powder to add a little bit of shimmer while making a solid white color. The whites that I'm using here are Casting Crafts opaque white pigment combined with Black Diamond Pigment's white diamond effect. This is the last layer, and I will fill the white to the top of the mold and leave it overnight to fully harden. I usually do my last pour to leave overnight to avoid any early demolding. This resin usually takes about 6 hours to demold from my experience, but this resin will continue to harden over time over the course of a week according to the instructions on the Total website. Keyword, this resin that I'm using, the specific Total high performance resin with the slow hardener version. If you're using a different brand or type of resin, check your instructions and not go by my timing because every resin is different. If you do want to try out this resin though, I will have the link in the description, and if you use my link to purchase, you will be able to save a little bit of money on your order. It's the next day now, and these coasters have hardened and we're ready to demold them. And look at how pretty they are. These coasters are so simple with the fern and matching green, and the green is so bright. The shade is just perfect. They always catch attentions at my market, and I probably sell a set at least 80% of the times. When I first made these, I was obsessed, and because everyone loves them so much, I can keep making them, so that makes me really happy. But they're not done yet. We'll be adding a resin top coat to these coasters to make them extra shiny. It may look like the coasters are flawless right now, but my mold wasn't perfect and there are some matte spots. It's not very noticeable, and honestly, a lot of customers will probably not see what I'm pointing out at all, but as the maker, we always find the tiniest flaws. So we'll be adding a top coat to make sure the surface is even and completely shiny. I think this also adds a level of professionalism, so I do it to pretty much all of my pieces. Before I do the top coat, I use Elmer's glue on the back of my pieces. That's because sometimes I get resin drips over the sides. It happens sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes I get them, and when it does happen, I will have extra work to do with sanding and polishing. You'll see what I mean when we finish the top coat, but I just apply a layer of glue with my silicone brush, let that dry, and then add the top coat. The drying time for the glue is also about 18 hours for me, but I'm able to shorten the time with a fan, so I usually do this step at night as well and leave a fan blowing at the pieces overnight. They're usually dry by then. I tried to show the back of the coasters with the dried glue, but it's hard to tell since it's white. But the glue turns opaque, so you know that the glue is dried. For the top coat, I use Total's tabletop resin. This resin is thicker and it's meant for coating, so it gives me perfect results every time. I try to use the same resin that I used to create the coasters, the high performance resin, but it's thinner so it runs off the edges easier, and sometimes it gives me mist spots on the surface. Once I finish this pour, I will leave the coasters to cure overnight, about 12 hours, and then I will move them to another flat surface to fully harden for another day.
The tabletop resin takes a little more time to harden compared to the high performance, and I've made the mistake of finishing them up earlier and leaving unwanted marks on the beautiful surface that we just done when I add the cork backing and stamping the logo. So to avoid that, I have to leave the resin to harden a little more, and so I move them to another level surface to fully harden, and that way I can free up some space on my table to make other pretty things. And just to explain what I've been doing in the video and how I do my top coats, I pour a little bit of the tabletop resin to the middle of my piece, and then I use my mixing stick to spread it out to the edges. I start off with a small amount, and then I will add more resin as I go if I need to. If I pour too much at once, the resin will quickly spill over the edges. I just want to top coat the surface for these coasters and not the edges, so start small to keep the resin under control. So now it's been at least 36 hours, and this is what the back of the coasters look like. Notice how there was dripping on one of the coasters but not the other. I may have poured a little too much on the one that has drips, but good thing is we have the glue layer on the back to protect these coasters. I am using my Cricut weeding tool to help me peel off the glue layer. I have this for weeding vinyl, but it's very useful for this step as well. I just use what I have. And then look at how the resin drip just peels right off the dried glue. Look at how shiny and perfect the surface of this coaster is now. I started off doing top coats just on pieces that had surface bubbles and imperfections, but now I top coat pretty much everything for that extra shininess and more professional look. It's extra work, but the results are so worth it. And with the glue protection layer, we save so much time and effort to sand away those resin drips for a flat bottom. I just had to peel the glue off and it's clean and flat on the bottom. Now the final touches is adding the cork backing and stamping my logo to the cork. I got these cork backings on Amazon, and they have an adhesive on the back to make it easier for applying them. The adhesive is pretty strong and I haven't had any issues with them. I've actually misaligned several times the cork backings with the coasters and I had trouble removing it. So I do like these backings, and I make sure to line them up right before sticking them down. Press on the cork to make sure that it's flat and sticking across the entire coaster. You can add additional glue to the cork if you want like extra assurance, but I personally think it's okay. I will link all of the products that I use in the description, the molds, the resin, all this marketing stuff. If I miss anything, let me know in the comments because I can be forgetful, but I will link them right away when I see your comment. Last thing to do now is to add my logo with the stamp that I got from Zazzle. The stamp pad was from Amazon. My stamp didn't come with a stamp pad, but I think they do offer it on the site. I just figured Amazon would be cheaper, so that's why I got it off Amazon. I try to stamp my logo as nicely as I can, and that's it for these coasters. This is how I make my most popular color block coasters from start to finish. If you want to set up these coasters for yourself as well, they will be available made to order on my website. That will also be linked in the description. Check them out because they make great gifts.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed making these coasters with me. If you did, please like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram to see what I'm making, all the new things that I'm making, and any live sale details and shop updates. And also let me know down in the comments below what you think about these coasters. I'll see you next time!